Hello everyone, here we are. Finally, I made it work. I had some problems with Streamlabs, so I think we can get right into it. Hi there, welcome to my stream. So tonight, what I wanted to share with you is some ideas, some exercises related to the way we are understanding shapes when we're drawing. I might be talking a bit less than last time because I have a bit of a toothache, so it's not something that I can control at the moment really. I should be able to control it better in the future, but for now I'll just go with the flow. I'll just do whatever I can, but I think it's really important to find the time to do those streams, to go through with it. So I think we can begin with the basic warm-up that we are usually doing, and this one is going to be especially helpful for the lesson that we're going through today for the shapes. So I think we can start with the exercise with the lines. Let's see. You can download this exercise from the link in the description. It should be there. It's this one. So I think you can see it, but if I zoom in, yeah, there are a lot of dots on this page. And the point of this exercise is to try and connect as many dots as you possibly can. This little exercise should help us learn or teach our muscles how to move more precisely when we're trying to draw a certain type of line. So if I pick, dark, then we can try to hit as many lines as possible, right? And as I always say, try to move the whole hand, move from the shoulder, not from the ankle. The ankle? Isn't that the one on the legs? It's the wrist. Yeah, try to move it from the wrist, not from the wrist, from the shoulder. That's what I meant. Yeah. Yeah, you can see I'm a bit off today, but that's all right. We all have some of those days, right? What's important is to get through them, to do the work that has to be done. So do your best, try to hit as many as possible, and after we go from left to right, we'll be going from right to left. Okay, now we can try the other way around. This is gonna be way more difficult, for me at least, but for you it might be easier. And you can see, right? Oh, my shoulder is telling me no, don't do it. This is wrong, this feels very wrong. But it's important to go on with it. Try and make them as strict as possible. Even though they don't look necessarily good. Just do it. Just go with it. And in time, you'll get better. There we go. Oh, some of those, that one was a bit better. So now I'm trying to figure out how should I tell my muscles to work in order to get the results that I'm wanting. Oh, okay. Now, what I'd want to do is turn off this exercise for a second and go on with another one that I will probably prepare somewhere in the near future. The one with vertical lines, right? So trying to draw vertical lines, and it will be the same with dots. But this is a bit different, you know? It's another exercise. So I advise you do the same. Try and keep your hand steady and go from the shoulder. Oh, that was a nice line. Previous one. And then we're gonna try to do the same, but from down to up. And you can see, right, some of my lines, some of them are pretty wobbly. Some are better. Oh, what's important is to do them. Then we have the other one. I'll quickly just adjust my tablet, because it had a bit of a steeper angle. That felt a bit weird. So it's important to draw on a stable, like platform, on a stable table. I guess you could say that. But yeah, it's important to have that certainty, you know, that whatever you're drawing on won't move around. And then, after you gain confidence, then you can try drawing on stuff that moves around. Maybe you can try drawing while standing. See what it feels like. Try to draw some, I don't know, buildings or people, some nature while you're standing. See what happens. See how it feels different. Take a little notebook and do that. So now, as you notice, I went from drawing horizontal lines to drawing those diagonal ones. And it's all in the same, how should we put it? In the same family of exercises with the rest of them. It helps the muscles of the hand understand how should they interact with each other in order to get the results that we want them to. It's all signals, and through exercise and repetition they get better at it. You get better at drawing. Okay, so now what I notice is it was much easier to draw from the bottom left to the top right. A lot easier. Let's try the other way around, like this. Oh my god. This feels so awkward. So awkward. Feels like I'm slashing the tablet, you know? It's like it's not supposed to be this way. It's something, I guess. Oh, let's create another layer. And let me try and do this again. Yep, slashing the paper. You should try this and see how it feels for you. It's pretty fun though. Yeah, I'm already feeling better. I'm forgetting about the toothache. Yeah, I recommend, if you have a certain reasonable problem like a toothache or something that you've tried solving already. You took some medication, you're doing whatever the doctor said you should be doing, but it still persists a little bit. Like, it's not an urgent issue, or it's not a very big problem. Then I advise you try and relax while doing some of this work, because sometimes it's late at night. You cannot make an appointment until tomorrow, so anyways you'll have to be there with that pain until tomorrow. So why not try to do something nice that might distract you, might relax you a bit while you're dealing with that pain. I'm talking about this because I went through quite a few bad toothaches, and I used to spend a lot of time, in bed, suffering, feeling that pain and just being there with it. When now I realized that I could have done something different, something to take my mind off of it, because the more I paid attention to the pain, it felt like it grew bigger and bigger. So this feels really nice right now. Okay, now I want to draw some of those ovals. Remember the ovals? I think you do. So I'll draw a bunch of ovals, but this time I won't be drawing the lines in between them. All I'm trying to do is make the ovals connect. This is the mission for today. Make the ovals connect. I want to see what happens if I set just one of those missions. No, just pay attention to the way they end, right? So this little line should connect with the line where I started from. Just do that. See what happens. And this is pretty nice. Let's do another page. Try to make the ovals different. Let's make circles. Yeah, why not? Let's enjoy. Oh, yeah, the circles got out of control really quickly. Trying to go back. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, my muscles are trying to figure out what's going on. What should we do? How should we connect? How do we go back from where we started? This is weird. Oh. Almost. Yeah, something is happening. Here we are. Some of those look a bit better. Yep. Okay. Just let's make one more. Okay. I think that's enough for the circles. And now, before I get into the more important stuff that I wanted to talk about today related to shapes, I would like to show you the shapes that I want to analyze together with you. So I want to go through the basic shapes that we usually have in our repertoire, and I want to see how is one of those basic shapes, how is it presented on the paper, let's say. What do you see when you notice that shape on the paper? What feeling does it send to you? And it can be different, it could be different, but generally speaking, some of those send a similar kind of emotion to viewers. So what I want to talk about is this, okay? Let's get right into it and you will see, you will notice. So if we have a square, yeah, basic square, try to get it as straight as possible, you know, less wobbliness, because wobbliness will do something different to the square. So yeah, let's say we have this square. Oh, yeah, something like that. Okay, and no, on its own, this is a pretty stable shape, I would say. Like you can like get the feeling that yeah, this square fits perfectly within the screen that we're looking at. It's quite clear what's going on. It has a stable lower part, you know. It's it doesn't feel like falling. It feels like it's in the right place. It's where it should be. It's like a rock. It's solid. Yeah, that's pretty much what I'm seeing from this square at the moment. Right now, let me change it a bit and let me try to do something with it. So let me change the square into a triangle. Okay, and let's see what does this do. So again, the triangle, it's a bit of a different shape, you know. It still has stability in the lower part, but it no longer has that, you know, certain placement within the screen. It's not so regular anymore. It doesn't feel like it, you know, it's a little screen within a screen. No, it's a triangle. It's different. It has some sort of different quality. Let me draw it again on top so that we can erase it. Yeah, I should keep those on separate layers. So, oh, there we go. That's better. So that we can talk about all of them. Okay, so now here we are. We can erase the one in the middle, and yeah. What did I do? I did something. Oh, I erased the one on top. Okay, I didn't mean to do that. Okay, yeah, I wanted to do this. Okay, so the square, you see the difference between the square and the triangle. Yeah, it's pretty obvious that this top part feels a lot more dynamic, and it points towards something. It could point towards this direction, but at the same time it points towards this direction and also towards this one. So now all of a sudden this one doesn't really point towards anything. It's too stable to point to something, because here is 90 degrees angle, so it's not that clear, and everything is so, you know, symmetrical. It doesn't seem like it's pointing anywhere. It just stays there. But this one, it seems like it's placed on some sort of foundation and it points upwards. That's what I feel when I'm looking at this shape. But afterwards we can try and do something different. We can try and make one of those. And let's see what happens here. When we have one of those triangles, okay, this one feels really unstable. Feels like, you know, it's gonna fall any moment, here or here. That's how I see it. if it doesn't fall, it feels like it's pointing down. And you know why? Because this line is parallel with the screen line, or close to it, of course. It's not exactly one, but this is what it sends to me. It sends to me the idea that it's pointing downwards and that it's falling downwards, actually. There's no longer a foundation here at the bottom. It's actually like either an arrow or, I don't know, something heavy. And now we can play with this kind of feeling and accentuate it, right? So if I want to show more of that, I can make the angles tighter, right? Can try doing something like this. And then the arrow, it's clearly pointing downwards and it's going to stick into the ground when it hits it. This is definitely a piercing arrow. And if you want to take it even further, you know, show more of this kind of direction by creating an arrow inside the arrow. This is pretty cool. So now going back to the first one, yeah, this felt stable. It felt like, you know, a pyramid. It looks like a pyramid, right? A temple of sorts that is pointing upwards. This could be a tower, a mage tower that is piercing the skies. If we accentuate, right, we show more of that direction. But now let's see something. If I take the same arrow, make it steeper, but then I do this towards the bottom and I erase this area. Okay, this one feels way less stable than the first one. This one feels like it's going upwards. It's no longer connected to the ground. It certainly was sent upwards or is going to go somewhere in this direction, but there's no more stability here. That's what I'm getting from this drawing. And what I'd want to do next is I'd like to play some more with some of those shapes. Let me think how, though. I want to try and do a triangle that's random, okay? So it's not pointing anywhere necessarily. Let's do that. Try to keep it a bit more equilateral. I don't know if that's the word in English, but okay. So this triangle right now, it's pretty random. Let me make it a bit more random with the angle. Yeah, so yeah, I'm trying to not have any lines that are parallel with some of the lines of the screen. So now this kind of triangle doesn't really seem to be pointing anywhere, although it points in 3 directions at once. So yeah, it's pretty random. It's like a Dorito, yeah, the shape. It's quite dynamic, yeah, I'd give it that. But other than that, it doesn't have stability. It doesn't have a certain direction, so it's just floating there in the air. Now I get why they use it on the, on the Doritos. I want to say box, but it's not box. Yeah, you get what I'm saying, right? So the marketing used it quite nicely because it's like a floating triangle. That's the impression. But now change it. Let's give it some meaning. Yeah, let's try to do it just the same, but make it more steeper on one side. Now this is clearly pointing in this direction. Yeah, you can see it. And we can do the same with others. So now this will point in this direction. And if you want to point downwards, yet again. Now, this is a bit confusing because you're seeing all of them at once. But if you're imagining, you know, individually, if you see only this one or only this one, you'll notice that, yeah, they are pointing in that direction. So also composition matters, because if we do this and we have many random triangles everywhere, this becomes some sort of a texture more than an object that's pointing in any clear direction. Something to take into consideration. Let's think of something else. What I wanted to show you. Well, we can go on with some different shapes. So we went through with the triangles. We went through the square, which is kind of basic, but we can try and see what does the circle feel like. Okay, so the circle feels, let's think about it, right? Or let's just look at it. Again, it seems to be quite stable, I'd say. It doesn't have a clear foundation like the square, but it seems like it could sit in one place. I can imagine a ball, right, that's on the ground. It has a different kind of stability. Other than that, let's think about it. Roundedness, yeah, you have that. So there's no clear direction in which this kind of shape is pointing towards. So it's like a floating object at the same time. So it has stability, some sort of stability. It is floating in this particular area, but other than that, it's pretty soft as a shape, you know, pretty nicely. The roundedness of the circle, what can I say? So now those characteristics, we can change them and see what happens. So I want to see what a singular oval feels like. So let's see this one. Okay, this certainly is floating. So it's no, it's not floating necessarily. It's either going this direction or this one, or both at the same time. It's like it's being pulled from both sides at the same time. At the same time, this part is contracted. That's interesting. So it does have movement. It has more movement than the circle, that's for sure. And it doesn't have stability anymore. I guess if we put it on one side, if we make an oval like this, it can look pretty stable though. Yeah? So if we do this, yeah, this looks kind of a stable object, this one in isolation. It looks like it could be placed on the ground, but at the same time it could be that it hit the ground. It's like a ball that hit the ground and then it got squashed by the gravity. So it could be both. But this is more stable. So yeah, it matters a lot how you place it on the paper, how you place the shape on the paper, and how you try to convey a certain idea. So if we want to create something stable but dynamic at the same time, what could we do? Those are opposites, right? So you could have one of those on one side. Let's say this part is stable for this object, but here we can add some dynamic shapes to create something different. Okay, so I just added, like we did when we were kids, you know, playing with those simple shaped toys, you know. I added them together. So now what I can notice from this kind of combination is this area is the one that's the most you know, is the clearest one, and those other ones, they are more interesting. Like this here creates a flow, it goes downwards, and this one, it sends the same direction. Those angles, you know, this angle is wide, so it doesn't necessarily point towards something, but yeah, this kind of object definitely is sending me in this direction. And now if I think about it, I can see in this object a person. Maybe not the person, but an animal. It can be a duck, a little duck who's quacking. And the duck also has a costume. So, no, he's going to the office. But yeah, shapes interact pretty nicely with each other. Now let's try and erase the lines in between the shapes. See what we're left with. So we're left with this kind of shape. So this kind of shape doesn't do much on its own. It does send me towards this direction still, but it feels like it's missing something, right? It feels like it should be like this. Huh. Yeah. So now, now it's more clear what we want to do with this shape, you know. So clearly this goes this direction and this direction, and this here is the stable part. Okay, we can try and create another shape and see again what happens. Let's use more circles, more ovals. See, what are they going to create combined with other shapes? So let's say maybe we have a cylinder here, right? Because we're connecting a square to the first circle. Then we have to the oval. Then we have another circle and a triangle here, maybe. Okay. So now let's erase all the lines in between. Yeah. All we want to see is the shape behind the scenes. So now let's take a look at this. What does this convey? It does feel like some sort of object, like an industrial object, maybe a piece from a machinery, because it does have, right, those rough lines, but there's also some roundedness in some parts. Therefore, could be connected to a mechanism that is rotating, you know, something like that. It doesn't have a certain direction, it doesn't point towards something in particular. This angle is quite steep, so there must be tension here. But that's about all I can say about this kind of shape. Well, we can try another one, and then we can move on to some of the more concrete exercises that I have prepared for today. So now we've just been playing around. What else I wanted to say, to tell you, is that by starting from the basic ones, right, from the square, from the circle, from the triangle, and then any other shape, you know, going further, you can start to use some of the properties of the others into those ones. So if you want to give some direction but keep stability for a square, you can create a trapezoid, right? And this certainly has an upwards direction, you can notice it. Or if we have it on one side, again, let me just make it like this, you can see, yeah, it's pointing towards the right. This is quite clear. But then we can just be playing around with those shapes, creating random stuff like this, which at the moment doesn't seem to be pointing towards anything. It's kind of pointing those directions and a bit here, but this is quite a random one. But then we can have one of those, right, which is some sort of rhomboid, and it's pointing in that direction. That's pretty clear. At the same time, we can curve those lines, right, and we can create a more pointed shape, like a star, you know. And we can also keep it quite stable, but make one side point towards somewhere. So this is quite clear where it's pointing at. But then we can have symmetry added to it, so it creates stability in the composition, right? So it's still pretty pointy, but the pointiness is equal on all sides. So yeah, you can use this as a pattern, or you can use it as an object that is floating. So what I've noticed so far is that if you have dynamic objects, right, that don't show a certain direction, like we had with the circle, like we had with this star, like we had with the random triangle, yeah, the Dorito triangle. If you have those as the main object in your composition, it would seem like those are floating, because you don't have a certain direction. Nothing gives them a certain direction. They are equal in that way. So if we want to give a direction to this circle, we maybe elongate it on one side, right? So create some sort of egg shape, or we can give him two directions or whatever. And for the triangle, again, the idea with the arrow, right? You create one of those steeper angles, one of them, and then you show clearly a direction in which this triangle is going towards. So now I want to move on to some more concrete exercises, and I've prepared some images that I want to analyze together with you and understand how does the shape function in these pictures. So we'll start with a picture of a person that's dancing. So let's see. There we are. Okay, I can make this a little bit smaller. No, I lost the proportion. There we are. Okay, and we can draw on top, so lower opacity just a little bit so we can still see. And then grab another one, and let's draw on top and see what happens, because this as a picture has a pretty nice composition of shapes. So I can clearly see, let's go with the green, a blue. I can clearly see that we have this sort of outline for this shape over here, right? So what I want you to do and try to do is see this whole image as just a contour, right? Just a contour, just a shape. Don't see the 3D aspect of it. Trying today just to notice what happens with the shapes. So you can clearly see that it has this sort of roundedness, curvature on one side, but there's also this accent here, right? So this accent seems to be pointing downwards. You see? It's pointing towards the ground. This one is kind of like a reminder that, you know, the way this shape is constructed, it shows dynamism. It shows the dynamic side, right? It shows that it's kind of floating, it's kind of flowing around, but at the same time, this is a reminder that the ground is still there, is still a certain has a certain influence on this object, right? If we think of this shape as just whatever object it is, so it doesn't have to be a human, it can be a statue, whatever it is connected to the ground. And this one is another reminder. Okay, so this here, you know, the shape goes around very nicely, but then it goes straight when it hits the ground. So this is pretty cool. This is pretty cool to notice. I'll put a little pin here. And yeah, it's a nice idea, also the accent, because otherwise this would be kind of boring. So by having this here, it creates a nicer composition. And then when you have this kind of simplicity on one side, on the other side there is quite a bit of complexity, but you can see also some sort of rhythm. So first of all, we have a triangle over here, then we have another triangle here, and you could say that this here would be the third triangle, the third big triangle, but this is more of an opening, right? And the opening points towards the head of the character. So the head of the character becomes here a point of interest. If you're following the shape around, right, and you're going through all those tension points, you end at the character, where there's no longer the same tension. This is more open. This lets the viewer enjoy. That's what I feel, you know, when I'm watching this, when I'm noticing this image. I can rest in this area of the picture. All right. So this is pretty interesting. Now, let's see what else can we notice. In the composition, there's another triangle here, which again shows the motion of the drawing. Yeah, it's quite dynamic. Then there is a bit of the space over here, a little shape, you know, that keeps things, you know, balanced. It would be a bit weird to see just the head going like that. It's nice to have some little separation there. The hand, yeah, it's pointing downwards. So those hands are pointing in opposite directions, One is pointing upwards, one is pointing downwards. So here we have a bit of a contrast, which again is quite nice. The hands look quite different as well, right? So here we have the fingers, which are all pointing upwards. Here we have 3 of the fingers who are pointing downwards, but one is pointing a bit higher. So, you know, those 2 hands contrast in 2 different ways, right? As I noticed earlier. So that's interesting to keep things asymmetrical, especially when we're talking about a character that's in motion. It has to point towards this kind of flow, if you get what I'm saying. And otherwise, yeah, I think that's pretty much it when we're talking about shapes. What I'm noticing, again, I could be saying that this curvature is not as simple as it looks, because we're talking about muscles, so it has a lot of sides to it, you know. It's not going straight rounded, but, you know, slight turns and slight bumps. And that's the same about those kind of shapes, the triangles. They have to be connected, and that's all about anatomy. But if we simplify, that's pretty much what I'm seeing. So simple on one side and quite complex on the other. But that's what I think helps this kind of image have a nice composition of shapes. Now moving on, I can make a little folder with this one, and we can try to analyze a different image. So let's see, what about this ballerina? Let's see what is going on here. So, oh, what's going on? This group is empty? What happened? I'm not understanding what's going on. Let me move those here in project, and let's just work in project, okay? I got a bit confused. Okay, so this is group number 2. Yeah, good. And here I want to create another layer. Let's just lower the opacity of this one, and let's start drawing on top. Okay, so here we can notice something similar, I would say, but not exactly the same. There is this kind of roundedness, right, to one side. So one side, even though it's not very simple as shapes, as we're talking about shapes, but it's clear what it's trying to convey, right? It's very round, very rounded. But if we go on the other side, here we start to see something more interesting. So here, first of all, on the ground, I see a triangle in between the feet that sort of shows stability for this character. So we have the legs, which help show this exact same thing, but also the negative space in between the legs is trying to send the same message, right? So this character is quite stable, even though the points are very small, but it surely is positioned on the ground. On the other side, we have this wide negative area, which is pointing towards the back of the character. So here I tend to say that this part is one of the central points of this picture, the back, you know. And I'm not sure if that's useful, but it could be quite useful to convey the fact that this kind of motion is hard to achieve, and you know, the back is strained, it's quite strained. So we can notice that by the negative space, by following the negative space around, it's quite clear, right? And let me just leave that triangle over there, and here you can see something interesting. So another point of I'm gonna repeat myself, but another point of interest is this area over here, the one with the head and the two hands. So here, even if we wouldn't see the head, like we wouldn't see the details, we would just see a shape, right? Then maybe we can ignore this shape. Yeah, let's say that, you know, it's just an oval and it's connected to the whole rounded curve. But the hands clearly point upwards. And so, by logic, you know, we have one object pointing upwards, we have another one. Then we tend to think that, or I tend to think, that this oval is pointing upwards, even though as a shape it doesn't necessarily do that, but by correlation it kind of sends me this message. And when we see the details and we see what's behind the shape, we can understand clearly, yeah, they are all pointing upwards. So this sends me this kind of message. It is a bit stable, you know, it's quite stable. It has 2 points where it interacts with the ground. There's a lot of tension going on in this area of the character, but at the same time, you know, the whole motion is going upwards, tension, and then, you know, like freedom, like going towards the sky. This is what this image, what I understand from this image, from the way the shapes are used in this image. Like we can simplify them like this. Yeah, quite interesting, and especially important for characters to have some sort of story behind. They could convey, you know, simplicity as well. They could convey stability as well, if you have people that are just standing around. But if it's not correlated with the story behind them, you know, if you have a character that is, I don't know, extremely grounded and extremely boring with its life or whatever, what it's doing, you wouldn't have the character convey this sort of shape or have this sort of shape, especially not by using the hands in this manner. You could have the shape like you know, just follow the shape. But again, you know, if you have this shape for a character, it depends on what you do with it later on. But if you add context to it, this one clearly shows that, you know, it's trying to find freedom, is trying to fly towards the sky. Quite interesting. Now we can move on to another one, which would be different. We had people. Now let's see, what does a tree convey? The shape of a tree. Okay, so here we are with this little green bonsai. But first of all, water break. And let's see. Okay, so I'll include the vase, or no, let's not include the vase. Let's imagine here is dirt. Anyway, the bottom part is stable just because of the ground itself and the connection of the tree with the ground. Like, you can clearly see it is pretty well connected. But other than that, you can see it's quickly escaping in different directions, right? It's like it's escaping the ground. And it has those motions that are quite rounded. Yeah? Can clearly notice. And there are trees that are more stable, and this kind of observation can help you, or can help me. First of all, I'm talking about what I'm noticing, so this could be different for you, for what you would be noticing if you tried those kinds of exercises, observational ones. But at least for me, this would help me create characters starting from such trees and trying to convey different things, as I was saying earlier. Like this bonsai as a character seems like a pretty free spirit that is at the same time balanced, It has balance, it has those nice rounded shapes going on, and this kind of rhythm of roundedness. So there are two kinds of curves here. There are some curves that are pointed upwards, yeah. If we simplify, and of course you can see here, right, there's a little straight line. It contributes to the idea that, yeah, this is a tree. This is a strong tree. And at the same time, we have those bigger ovals. And those create very, very interesting patterns. Right, I'm trying to recreate it here on one side. This creates very, very, very interesting overall shape of the whole tree. And you can see, if we go into details, you can break those down into smaller curves. This is quite nice. Yeah, this conveys to me, again, balance, clearly pointed towards the sky, so clearly an upwards movement of the whole shape, right? Starting from the bottom, you can see it here, and then going upwards. But also, while going upwards, this balance, this equilibrium, right? And we can definitely say that this is a balanced object, because we know trees work in that particular way. They grow up so that they can keep the balance based on whatever circumstances they are going through. So this is pretty nice. It's pretty nice to see. Okay, I think I've learned something more. That's the point of those exercises, of those observations. Even though some of the observations, you can definitely say they are extremely obvious. It's stuff that you would easily notice. But there's also some more subtle stuff, and I think for once, I have to go through the obvious stuff in order to start noticing more details. I think that's why this is an important exercise for me. Now let's get on with some cars. And I didn't mean to deform your car. Transform, deform. I only meant to see your shapes. So here, this little beetle, we can see a lot of roundedness. A lot of roundedness. Going round and about. Also the windows are rounded. And inside the greater shape, there's way more curves that follow the same pattern, right? Everywhere. Everything is rounded, and you could just hug this car, you know? It's like a fluffy toy. That's what kind of message it sends. Everywhere except here. Here where it is crucial. Or maybe here as well, you can notice, right? It is crucial for this kind of object to be grounded in some sort of way. We're talking about a car. Even though you have the wheels, yeah, you have the curves here, you need to ground it in some way. It's a vehicle. If you're drawing a vehicle, you want to, except if it's not a flying one, but if it's a vehicle connected to the ground in some way, you want some shapes that would ground it, right? I think you do. Because let's just imagine together, what would this look like if it went like this, and it had maybe a wheel here, but here it went more like this, and here another wheel, but it would have this sort of shapes, right? How would this work as a functional car, you know? And not even talking about that, just a functional shape to convey the message. This kind of shape would tell me that this is some sort of cloud that's going either in that direction or in this direction. But that's about it. Okay, if I turn off the image, yeah. If you try to forget, there was a car somewhere inside there. No, this is just a weird cloud. Pretty weird cloud. You don't see those very often. Yeah, has some regularities here. This repeats, which is awkward for a cloud, but other than that, yeah, nothing special. This can be a thought bubble. But it doesn't have stability. Certainly doesn't. And now let's try to change it. Let's try and do this. Also do this. Well, now for me, yeah, this is definitely some sort of car, okay? Because it's grounded. It's grounded by those two lines. That's for sure. So yeah, quick lesson. If I want to ground something, try and use some lines in that area, in that side, on that side. Yep, makes a lot of sense. And now I was talking about details. I can go into a bit more detail. Yeah, zoom in a bit more. And let me think. Let me think. So I can notice that those shapes, yeah, they are connected. This is a flowing line that shows motion. You can see it here as well. The hood is one big shape. It's pointed towards the back, I think, right? Because at the same time, right, this is pointed this way, but some of the shapes show that there is also this kind of direction. So that's the direction of the air that's hitting the car that's driving, I think. Interesting things to notice. This goes the same way, the back. And simply the use of many circles, many ovals all over the place, and this whole roundedness of it. Yeah, even here there's roundedness. I'm trying to notice if there is more straight lines. And you know, we have this one. You could say we have this one as well. To convey, it's a bit curved as well. So, you know, here, but this is connected to this curve, so doesn't matter. Here we have though. Here we have some straighter lines. And also on the sides, if you think about it, you know, those show clearly that there are windows there, and we're not talking functionally because yeah, functionally they would have to be this way, but just for the sake of the shape, you could create a character, right, that would have this sort of window. Yeah, functionally very bad, but it would send a certain message. Not sure what it is though. What message does this window share with us? I don't know. More roundedness, more, it's like a very comical. It would be a very comical object. That's what I would think. So this car, yeah, this one is not comical. It is rounded, you know, it's cute. It's a very cute car, but at the same time it's quite functional. It's quite nice, you know. It's balanced all around. So it's not comical in that sense. Has a certain purpose. You can see that purpose. You can understand it from the shape design. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Now, I've noticed the clock. So I think I'll take a quick break. If you need to take a break, I'm telling you, every hour or so, it's important to do it. To get up from the chair, drink some water, do some small, you know, exercises for the back, for the shoulders, for the hands, go to the bathroom, whatever. Just remember to take breaks, because breaks keep you strong. So I'll be right back. And we are back. Hope you had a nice break. Let me see what is next. So we talked about cars, we talked a bit about people, about trees. Yeah, I have another car prepared for you, which is different from the first one. This is more of a, serious, let's say. You can notice this kind of message straight up from the whole shape. It shows that this car is more grounded, way more grounded than the other one, right? So if you just look at the shapes, right, this is more bubbly, this is more, happy, free, let's say, floating around. Now this car is quite stable, it's quite well balanced, it's gonna get the job done. And that's not all, because I notice some other shapes here. So let's just start with what I'm seeing. So I'm seeing the groundedness, right? Here the wheel is kind of hidden, which is it's nice. Here at the front again, this is slightly curved, which is nice to see. But now over here, right, still get a bit of that roundedness, a little bit of that freedom, of that feeling. And then at the back, a bit more of that same straight lines. But you can notice right here at the back, yeah, I see a few more of those accents of wanting to go upwards, wanting to fly a bit. Here it's a bit rounded, right? Here again, it goes from a rounded bit towards a more straight line. This is quite nice, the way that you have more vision, yeah, in the front. Oh, this must have been wonderful to drive, because you can see from this area as well, more visibility. And the shape is quite nice. It has those shapes that send the idea of, safety, right? Those straight lines, but there's beauty at the same time. It's not just functional safety, it's safety with a beautiful design, with a free design that at the same time is grounded and is rounded and grounded. And yeah, I can notice, some of those accents. That's what I should call them. It's a grounded object with accents that help it along the way. Oh, very, very nice. Very nice car. The hood rounded. What else could I say? I think I said most of it when I was talking about the last car, explaining how I see the way the shapes interact. But for this one, I think it's quite nice. It's quite okay what I said, what I noticed. Now moving on. Let me take some water first. Moving on, I would like to try and analyze some buildings. Let's start with this one. So I'm not sure what this building is. Looks kind of like a church, kind of like a temple. I'm not sure, but what I am sure about is that it has some interesting qualities. First of all, it is very well balanced. You can see the symmetry right down the middle. Yeah? You can notice it's exactly the same all the way towards the top of the towers. Then it's a grounded building. But of course, this pond that's placed in front of it, this is beautifully placed because it breaks this kind of groundedness. Yeah, if you would have had grass here or any sort of terrain, then the building would have been, you know, pretty static and pointing towards the sky. But by adding this sort of object, right, the pond in front of it, you let the building continue and dissipate at the same time. So it continues into the water and it becomes less and less part of our physical reality, right? And you can notice here, right? It's like it's breaking down. You know, it's breaking. It's no longer physical. So by doing that, becomes immaterial, and it's similar to the idea of this kind of building floating. That's what I'm understanding. It's like this building is floating overall and is quite clearly stable here and pointing towards the sky. So here in the middle it's quite stable, but at the same time floating. It may sound contradictory, but that's what I'm seeing, that's what I'm feeling. And pointing towards the sky, easily noticeable by following those triangles created by the towers. So pretty steep triangles, yeah. Some breaks in between them, so that you get some time to breathe, a bit of a rhythm. And there's also the rhythm created within those triangles, a rhythm that is perfectly symmetrical. Also the rhythm of the windows, yeah, you can notice here is a nice change of rhythm, right? Because you got those circles, then you have the ovals again, ovals for doors, here elongated ovals. Okay, so it's not just symmetry, is a combination of symmetry and rhythm that makes this this sort of building attractive. It's nice to look at. If I, you know, turn off the layer, it's a nice building to look at, and it has qualities. That's what I would say. So yeah, noticing how you can create that in an object, those kind of little rules put all over the place. Nice to see. And now I think I can bring in another one of those pretty symmetrical buildings. So here we have a Greek temple, and let's see what we can notice about this one. First of all, yeah, again, clear symmetry down the middle. And then we can notice something quite interesting by using the columns, right? You have the connection with the earth, of course, but you're breaking this connection, breaking it all over the place, because you're leaving a lot of this space empty, right? So this is empty space. Of course you have something behind, but I'm talking just as the front view. If you imagine just the front view, you have a lot of free space, and that helps define the top part as a floating part. You see? It's like a very wide arrow. So we were talking about arrows in the first part. It's a very, very wide arrow pointing slightly towards the sky. You know, it's not, doesn't seem to be that daring as, I don't know, a pyramid would be. But it's more of a restricted arrow. It still points towards the sky because the base is parallel with the ground. You know, it's still going there, still pointing, but a bit less. This gives me the impression, of course, if you ignore functionality, right, and if you ignore the structure and how this could have been made possible, this gives me the impression that, you know, we tend to be like we tend to follow the rules of the gods, and we tend to try and live a life like they would tell us, but not that much. It's not like they are perfect. That's what I'm gaining from this kind of shape brought in the context of Greek antiquity. So it's not like we see them as the greatest role models. We follow what they're saying. We tend to go upwards, you know, towards their teachings, but not 100%. So yeah, and to break the symmetry, we have this very, very beautiful area over here. Oh, that has some important characters. I think this is Zeus, or who knows, gods and goddesses. Wait, yeah, I said it right. Yeah, we have a bunch of those. Maybe there's a story, maybe they are fighting, they are plotting against one another. But pretty nice break of symmetry with this strong accent. Because otherwise you can notice that inside every object, they're not just placed there for the functional purpose, but they do have a very important aesthetic purpose as well. You can see the columns. Those are, I think, Corinthian, if I'm not wrong. Yes, I think, yeah, they are Corinthian columns. You can see all the details happening there, all the plants that are recreated in stone. And also we have quite a bit of detail going on here, and a message for the people. So yeah, you can have the symmetry, but breaking it through some elements, like just one big element that's breaking it. Now this top part is enough to make it very interesting. And at the same time, even if you didn't have that, it would be quite an interesting message, because you just took the temple off the ground, right? It's like you broke the rules. The building was supposed to be on the ground. It wasn't supposed to float above ground and air going through this. It was not supposed to be like that, but you know, this is a temple for the gods, and the gods live up in Olympus and in the sky and all that. So, you know, the divinity is up there, separated from the ground. This is the kind of message that I'm receiving from the temple, from this temple. So yeah, it's an interesting building. Interesting to analyze the shapes in this manner. Now moving on, I have just another one more building, and then we'll move on to something different. I have a Gothic cathedral. So now you can see what happens when people want to break the rules a bit. They don't want to sit just with symmetry. Here, it's pretty clear that, you know, usually, yeah, you would have had this symmetry line. Yeah, and you notice that, yeah, the rule is followed until here, let's say. Yeah, if you took only this part of the building, maybe it breaks a bit here, right? Because it has an extra area. But this side, it's pretty much similar. But this break over here wants to tell us, hey, we're not just breaking the rule on the bottom level and keeping everything the same here. No, we're breaking the rule all the way to the top. So it's a great way to pinpoint this kind of decision by creating a clear separation between the two. So yeah, we have the towers, you know, those little towers pointing upwards. We have this very nice and clear arrow. This one is more serious than those little ones. And also this, you know, this is a great accent, right? And it's very appropriate. It's positioned on the tallest tower. It sends the message clearly. But I would say that from this shape, this one is the... I'm not sure if it is the most important or the second most important triangle in this composition. Because this is a very serious one. It's like, you know, it's positioned first of all on the line of symmetry in the middle. What would have been the line of symmetry. That's one thing. The other one is that it has this circle that supports it, circle which is quite important inside of the building, inside of the church. It has that creates that effect with light. It's very beautiful. And so yeah, I would say, and also this is considered, it looks like the main entrance. So then I would say that this triangle is more important than this one, even though this one is the tallest. So yeah, but at the same time, this is the second most important, which is very nice. And this accent, I would say that, yeah, this whole area, that is an accent. They wanted to break the symmetry, they wanted to break the rules, so they created this beautiful spear shape. That's an accent that helps this area over here, you know. It does destabilize the composition a bit, of course it does. That's the point why they made it so tall. So the weight falls towards the right side right now, yeah. And I guess that might have also some hidden meanings, or not hidden necessarily, some religious meanings related to what right means, you know, importance of the right side, of the right hand, and all of that. I think it adds to that. But yeah, pretty cool to see something, you know, that's still quite old, but yeah, they played around, broke symmetry. And I showed you mostly, I think, religious buildings. I think the first one was as well a religious building, because they have quite clear messages. So that's why I didn't take a house or something simpler. But I'm getting quite a bit of knowledge from observing those. I think it's nice. In the end, that's what's important, right? To understand something, to build up on what I've learned earlier in the last streams, and, you know, have fun, enjoy. And now I have 2 more drawings for you, in which we'll study the shapes, and they are dog drawings. So we have some puppies that we're going to try and understand as shapes. But, you know, I don't blame you if you look at the puppy the whole way. But let's see what we can gather from here. So what I'm noticing, because of the fur, I will try to ignore the fur as much as possible. So what I'm noticing is this kind of curvatures that are pointing upwards, and they create a very nice central point, like a point of interest, the head of the puppy. And then here at the top we have stability, and this shows to me, you know what, stop there. We don't want to go towards the sky, you know, it's not a triangle or anything like that, a spear. No, we want to go upwards, follow the lines, follow the curvatures, all those little curvatures, right? And even the curvatures of the ears. But we want to stop here. Stop and take a look at this area. Yeah, I think you can see it as well, right? And yeah, it's quite simple. For the same or towards the same message, the legs are pointed as well upwards, and all the fluff that's going on around here. Yeah, this is quite a nice point of interest for the character. So yeah, differences though. What I can see from one side to another, you know, that kind of differences. Here, this is more straight than this one. This one has a few more ups and downs. This is quite straight. It has a bit of a break, yeah, from time to time, but otherwise I would say it is quite straight. And you know, it's it seems to be close to symmetrical, right? This character is very close to being symmetrical one side to another, and that may make it pretty boring. That's why maybe if we accentuate some of those sides, oh, that's not what I meant to do. Maybe, you know, bring more fluff, exaggerate the fluff, yeah. And here we could go the other way, like a bit more like this. More simple shapes, more straight shapes. And then you would have more of an asymmetrical, more interesting character. I'm not saying though that the symmetry is necessarily wrong for the character. It can be quite powerful, you know, keeping it symmetrical and then adding an accent, as we saw earlier, right? Something different. It doesn't have to be the whole character. You can keep it 80%, 90% symmetrical and then add a little something that's different. Or you can keep it symmetrical all the way and see what happens. See what does it convey? What does it show? Right? There's no problem with any of those. Okay. So now for the last image, here we go. A puppy that's a bit more asymmetrical is positioned in this sort of way. So let's see what we can gather from these shapes. Well, this is a bit more interesting because it has the ears pointed upwards. So now I can notice a curve here that's going where the ears are pointing. It's going up. Yeah, and the ears help us. So this kind of character seems to be pointing upwards with the help of the ears. So it's more dynamic, more floaty, like it wants to fly. This kind of curve on the other side points directly towards the head. So the head becomes a point of interest, or the first point of interest. And if you follow the head around, like what I'm noticing is, you know, with the help of those two lines, I go towards the head, I notice it, and then the head points me upwards. This is the kind of message I'm getting from those shapes. And it's pretty nice, pretty nice. What else? You know, the legs, they help to send the same message, going upwards. And at the same time you see the groundedness, right? Here you can see it. In the other picture there was a lot of grass we couldn't see. But here we know where the ground is. Very clear. Very simple to follow. Very simple to understand this object that is given by the shape. So this kind of, you know, if we create only the shape, yeah, this kind of object is clearly grounded 100%. Yeah, pretty simple to notice. But yeah, I think that's pretty good for today. I think that's quite enough. I went through quite a few of those, a few images. No project for today, other than this one, if we can call it a project. I went a little bit slower with the projects in the last stream as well, and this one, because they usually take about an hour, a full hour, to do something concrete. And I decided, you know, let's just try and notice a few more things. But next time I think it's important to do one of those projects in a lesson, or maybe even have a longer one, like 1 hour and a half, to try to integrate some of the stuff that I've already learned. So it might be just a stream where I'll be just drawing something from beginning to end by using some of the stuff that I've noticed in those last few streams and in the whole streams as well. So other than that, thanks for watching. Thank you for being here tonight, and you know, have a nice time drawing, have a nice time practicing, And don't forget to use this kind of activity as something that relaxes you, that brings joy to you, and as I did tonight, that relieved me from my toothache for a couple of hours. So, hope you're doing well, hope you're having a very nice day, evening, morning, whatever, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.